Hi, folks. Thanks for stopping in. My name is Bill. I'm a retired Coast Guard and Merchant Marine veteran, home builder, and small town mayor. Now, I was blessed as a young man to be able to raise some hell in about 30 different seaports and 35 countries around the world, and I've managed to accumulate a pretty respectable little list of adventures. And after literally decades verging from family and friends to write a book, actually. But of course, that's a little above my pay grade. So I decided to start logging some of these different adventures. I guess as an exercise, really, to just to let the great grandkids know what an absolute character old Bill was in his own words, and that's important. So this one is titled Hosepiped, or How to Escape from a Brothel into the Hands of the Korean Military Police. Yeah, Chapter 3. Now, this one is hands down my wife's favorite adventure story of mine, and it takes place in 1981. And she likes it because in this one, I end up getting just exactly what I had coming and then some. I really take it in the ass on this one. I mean, seriously, I just goddamn near got marooned in South Korea on the demilitarized zone between North and South Korea, left in the hands of the military police, and the ship sailing off without me. Almost real life-changing shit. Now, this one's going to be a little longer than I normally like to do, but it is the signature fuck-up story of my career. So please, hit pause, get some Orville Redenbacher and a glass of wine, hell, fire up a blunt, and just kick back and enjoy this one. Now, before we get started, you do know the difference between a fairy tale and a sea story, right? Now, a fairy tale starts with once upon a time, and a sea story starts with no, this is no shit. So, this is no shit. Now, I got out of the Coast Guard in the spring of '81. I had spent my last several months jumping through the paperwork hoops, getting my sea time chits signed off, making them official. And that's chits with a CH, not an SH. Then, within a week after my final salute, I was in Coos Bay, Oregon, taking 2 days of exams for my Merchant Mariner's document. Now, after acing that, both written and practical, along with a pile of signed documents, I was a newly minted able seaman unlimited, licensed to ply the world's oceans, restricted by neither sea nor tonnage. Yo ho ho, and a bottle of Cutty Sark, bitches. Now, up until about 6 months prior to getting out of the guard, I had no idea I even had a god uncle. That was until Uncle Bill heard I was getting out of the Coast Guard and sent word for me to come see him when I was a free man. Now, as it turned out, Uncle Bill Battles was the union agent for the Sailors Union of the Pacific out of Seattle, part of the Teamsters. And goddamn Shazam, just like that, I had myself a golden ticket, a brand new shiny backdoored union book. Damn, what a country. Hell, son, I was going back to sea. Only this time, I was a fucking teamster, and I'd be making pirate money. But you'll you'll learn pretty damn quick that the life of a merchant sailor isn't, well, it isn't all glamour and pirate booty. You'll generally work, if you're lucky, about 6 months a year. That's 6 months on and six off. You'll catch a ship through the Union Hall, say in Seattle or Portland, which will normally be a 60 to 90-day cruise, longer if it just says foreign on the destination board. That usually meant Panama Canal. And you could be gone for 6 months or more in one of those, and could go all the way around. But when the cruise is up, you get paid off, throw it on the beach, as they say, and the next cruise signs on. Then your card needs to season for at least 60 days before you can throw it in the hat for a spot on the next ship coming up. And the oldest card in the hat gets first choice of what's available or coming up. Now, they'll all be listed on the big board with arrival and departure and destination. If you're lucky enough to catch a ship, your pay on a cruise will be roughly one-third salary and two-thirds overtime. Hell, there's nothing else to do. You're in a floating steel prison for months at a time. So to stay sane, you work overtime and work out. And with small crews on big boats, there's always maintenance to do, chipping, painting, greasing. So you stand your watches for 8 hours. You work overtime for another seven with credit for eight, and you work 7 days. So that's time and a half on Saturdays and double on Sundays. I mean, trust me, you make your bank on overtime. Now, my very first ship, very first cruise was with APL, American President's Line, the President Madison. She was a big container ship. You know those big truck containers on the highway with the huge red APL on the side? That's American President Line shipping. Now, the Madison was on what we called the Jungle Run, which was about an 80 to 90-day cruise, completely circling the Pacific Rim. We shoved off from Seattle, across first to Japan, Yokohama, Kobe, and then Nagasaki. Now, a container ship will have anywhere from a 12 to a 36-hour turnaround time in each port. Some boxes go off, others come on, and get reshuffled for the next port. Now, at every port, there's always going to be guys who are staying aboard the ship and are more than happy to pull an extra deck watch for $50 cash. And with the ability to draw cash from your overtime at every port, brother, did I milk that little service. And even as a young man, I was very cognizant of the opportunity that, well, it wasn't dropped, it had been thrown into my lap. A chance to go see and do things that only a handful of people in the world ever get to do and make good money to boot. Are you kidding me? And now with a pocket full of cash and a little Olympus clamshell pocket camera, I was determined to take full fucking advantage of this first cruise. Now, my first ever port of call, Yokohama, Japan. Man, in Yokohama, I rode the brand new high-speed bullet train to Tokyo. Hell, I was there. I had to see for myself the world's most populated city. But the biggest single takeaway that stuck with me the most was getting onto that first rail car. God, the utter tides of people that flow through that system is just jaw-dropping, especially for a naive 24-year-old from the Oregon coast. Hell, the farthest I'd been away from home before this was was one ill-advised overnighter in Tijuana when I was 17, and of course got rolled by a working girl who was probably three times my age. But now I'm shuffling along with the million other morning commuters, all in their blue and gray business suits, heads buried in folded newspapers, men and women. And I can see the car I'm being swept towards is getting pretty full. I'd been watching a steady flow of six abreast roll into this car for about 30 seconds. Now it starts to slow and comes to a halt with, oh, maybe 15, 20 people still between me and the door. Hell, I figure, okay, we're first up for the next one. No big deal. But no. Just then, this platoon of little blue-suited subway agents appear. I feel a pair of hands firmly planted on my ass cheeks. I jerk my head around. Oh, Jesus, here it is. I'm being mugged again in a train station. Holy shit, are you kidding me? Then I see this huge grin, a pair of white cotton gloved hands on my cheeks, then buries his shoulder in the small of my back. And it wasn't just me. I see four or five others getting the same treatment. Man, this was like fourth and goal on the 3-yard line, and we were headed for a touchdown glory. But yeah, thanks to my little guy, my ass was the last one in the car. The door slides closed behind me, pinching the shit out of my cheek, and I get a chance to kind of catch my breath. Now, the second my ass gets clamped, the train's accelerating. I mean, they pack these things like vertical cordwood and launch them. Hell, back in '81, this system was moving over 1 million people a day. They don't fuck around. holy Christ, Toto, we're not in Kansas anymore. And it was right now when I get my first life-changing lesson on just how the fuck far from Kansas I really am. Now, as I pan from side to side, just taking it all in, it strikes me that all 200 people in this 30-foot car, as if on cue, have turned a little, papers down, not a word being said, and are staring directly at me. And trust me, I know it's everyone, because, well, being the tallest person in the car by about 7 inches, I could see everybody. Then as I look into their faces, a realization just washes down the spine of this big, dumb American like a bat to the forehead. Holy shit. Anyone over about 45, which is half of this fucking car, were children when we nuked them. Twice. Lost parents, grandparents, siblings, goldfish. I mean, I'm a veteran and a history buff. Now, in the fog of war, at the time, I can understand the debate and the reasoning for the first one, as hard as that is to swallow. But it's not taught in school that history has shown after the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, the Emperor Hirohito ordered formal surrender documents to be drafted. When 3 days later, 3 days, we dropped a hydrogen bomb on Nagasaki. I mean, hell, the war was over after the first one, and we knew it. But the hydrogen bomb was the latest new generation of planet busters, and we were the only one that had it. So we took the opportunity to drop the second one on Nagasaki as an object lesson and deterrence to Russia, who was flexing their muscles in the East. We did it to show off our new toy. Period. And now here I am out of nowhere, imposing on their quiet morning commute, 6'1½", 220, blonde, blue, tan, in a tank top with my big full-color American Eagle tattoo on my well-muscled bicep. Jesus fucking Christ. I am the living, breathing, walking embodiment of the GI recruitment poster that vaporized 2 cities. Yeah, that was pretty fucking sobering for a young man to take in all at once. But, as they say, we didn't start it. But we sure as shit finished it. But there wasn't any sense of me getting, burned alive, or, I wasn't afraid for my safety or anything weird, just an intense curiosity. Who the hell is this guy Jim, this foreign barbarian, this giant yellow-haired monkey on my train? What's this world coming to? But the whole trip into Tokyo was pleasant enough. The train was like Star Trek. I mean, it took about 30 minutes at 140 miles an hour. Everyone just staring at the big dumb guy Jin. A few younger folks would give me a little smile and avert their glance, but anyone with living memory of the war, they didn't look away. They held your eye contact and just stood there staring daggers into the back of your head. That was more than a little unnerving, but hey, I was uninvited in their world, so, I humbly accepted it. What else you gonna do? So anyway, now we hit Tokyo Station, and a group of 5 20-somethings, about my age, who were in the car, circled me on the platform. Turns out they were university students studying English as a minor, and were dead set determined not to let this golden opportunity get away. Shit, to practice their conversational English with a real-life dumb American? Boy, howdy, this was a chance not to be missed. So, all 5 decided to skip class and insisted on taking me on a little walking, talking tour around the area. They even called their professor to tell him what they were doing, and I was immediately invited to come to lunch and speak to the whole class the next day. But we were sailing in about 10 hours, or I probably would have. That would have been fun. But it was very touching, and that set the tone for the rest of the day. So now I'm this giant Pied Piper with a little cluster of students orbiting around me, pointing at everything, chattering away in pretty decent English. After a while, we wound up in their favorite little sushi bar about 4 blocks from the station, where I was introduced for the very first time to fresh cut sushi and wasabi and hot sake. And that changed my life. Holy shit on a shingle. Where's this stuff been my whole life? And I learned that these tiny little mom and pop sushi shops are more of a social drinking club with food. Now, of course, sake is always available with your food, but for any serious drinking, everybody buys a bottle and brings in whatever they drink, writes their name on it, and it goes up on the shelf wall. Then you buy a mini Coca-Cola or a mixer and pour your own for you and your friends. And when I left, staggering back to the train station about 5 hours later, I left behind 5 new friends and a third of a bottle of Sapporo whiskey on the top shelf with Sailor Bill written in Sharpie across the front. Now, as an aside, I've learned doing these silly videos that it's frightening to realize how much you don't know you've forgotten over the years until you make the effort to sit down, dredge this shit up, and write it down on paper. Man, I hadn't thought about those stupid whiskey bottles in over 40 years. But thinking back now, there's at least a dozen or more dusty old whiskey bottles on the top shelf in a dozen little sushi bars on the other side of the world with Sailor Bill written across the front. And I would bet you a mortgage payment that today, 43 years later, if that bar's still there, that bottle's still there too, waiting for me to walk in and pour one for my friends. And I like that. Now, Nagasaki, I stayed pretty close to the ship, and in any large seaport, there's going to be literally 2,000 little street food vendors and cafes of every shape and variety, all within a couple blocks of the port to feed the port workers. So I just went for some food, which is really what I mostly did. Yeah, now my fourth ever foreign port, Hong Kong. Yeah, baby. Talk about getting thrown into the deep end. Man, a 24-year-old kid on his own, never been out of Oregon in his life. Anyhow, Tijuana doesn't count. But now I'm on watch, out on the wing of the bridge, just staring, open-mouthed, at the spectacular Hong Kong skyline on our 9 p.m. approach to the harbor. Fucking A, are you serious? How the hell did I get here? Now, we were scheduled for a 24-hour stay, and once we were docked, man, I couldn't slap my 100 down fast enough. I was paying for 2 watches. Now, on the way across from Seattle, I'd gotten to be friends with a young third mate I worked out with, Dan. And Dan had been telling me stories about this world famous bar in Hong Kong called the Bottoms Up Club. Now, the Bottoms Up Club was featured in the James Bond movie, The Man with the Golden Gun with Roger Moore. And it was actually across the sea bridge from Hong Kong over in Kowloon, which is mainland China. So it takes about an hour to get the ship secured. Then Dan and I run screaming for a cab. Hell, it's Hong Kong. He's coming too. Now, the 80s in general was a much simpler, more innocent, naive time in the world for this kind of swashbuckler bullshit. Hell, just a simple cab ride straight into China. No passport, no papers. We're sailors. We don't need no stinking papers. Yeah, try that today without getting shot. Good luck with that. Now, the Bottoms Up Club was just almost too much too soon for a global virgin to absorb. Seriously, it was just total sensory overload. So here we are, downtown Kowloon, China. Crowded, narrow Main Street, neon everywhere. You walk down a long set of dingy concrete steps into a large 8-sided room with an eight-sided bar in the middle and about 15 bar stools around it. Now, in the center of the eight-sided bar, there was a small elevated dance platform with two young performers doing, well, performance things. And the place is just chock full of shit-faced Chinese businessmen in cheap suits, slamming whiskeys, chain-smoking Russian cigarettes, and throwing money on the stage. And apparently, it was the young performers' jobs to come up with inventive ways to pick the money up. I was appalled that I couldn't find an open seat. Damn. But hey, no worries. There was a curtained opening on each side of the room, then a couple of steps, and there was another eight-sided room with an eight-sided bar, 15 stools, and two enthusiastic performers. Now, this place, in this place, there was a total of eight of these interconnected eight-sided rooms, eight-sided bars, 15 stools, and two performers. And the idea was to start in the big lobby, the first room, and then have a couple of drinks in each one as you work your way around. Then by the time you get back to the first room, it's a shift change, and you get a whole new set of little girls. Performers to throw money at. Hell yeah, this was great fun. Now, the bottoms up also had this signature drink that was about, oh, I don't know, 28, 30 ounces of just syrup and grain alcohol served in this beautiful sculpted goblet with the bottoms up club name and logo etched in the glass. And if you could drink the whole thing and stay on your feet, you could keep the goblet. I mean, it was an actual trophy. Shit. Sounds like a fucking challenge to me. Now, this drink runs about 30 bucks, which would be about a 60 or $70 drink today. But of course, the goblet is the prize, and you had to earn it. It's kind of a, I don't know, cross between a Long Island iced tea and a tequila sunrise, but it's designed to knock your dick in the dirt. But you can bet your grandmother's undies I'm taking one of those glasses home. Now, the Chinese and Japanese cultures are very similar in that the men all drink heavily, and they're almost required to. Now, it's common for a boss to take a half a dozen employees out for drinks after work, and if you want to stay in the running for that next promotion, you better keep up with the boss drink for drink and be able to hold it. Believe me, part of your evaluation will be based on how well you hold your liquor. You see, every business meeting with every prospective client is held over food and drinks. And if you can't be trusted to hold your liquor with the client, you're out. So when someone orders the house drink, it's a big deal. You're the center of attention. Hell, even the girls have stopped wiggling around and are laughing and pointing and having fun. And I'm getting the Chinese version of the crowd chanting, drink, drink, drink. Only it sounds more like, drinko, drinko, drinko. Because you're not supposed to just sit there and sip it. I mean, this is China, the land of competitive alcoholism. You're supposed to drink it. Hell, this has now turned into a competition, East versus West. Now, I'm not stupid. Well, you'll probably challenge this a little later, but I'm not going to chug this thing. But after about 15 minutes, the last gulp goes down to a roar from the crowd. The handshakes, back slaps. Hell, the little girls have even pulled out a couple of those Kodak Instamatic cameras, you know, the ones that spit the pictures out right there, and are flashing away. The goblet is presented in a wooden presentation box and placed on the bar in front of me. Man, I just became one of the boys. And that's when the betting begins on just how long until you pass out. But now that the guys are buying drinks for the whole room, it's getting crazy. Nobody's rotating out of our room to the next one. The party's right here. Then somehow I end up arm wrestling this guy in a suit, and I let him think he's winning for a little bit, and then take him down. And he laughs out loud, slaps me on the back, and now there's six more drunken suits behind me waiting to get their picture taken, getting beaten by the yellow-haired gorilla. Man, it was a glorious evening. But right around now, the little snippets of memory get a little fewer and farther between. Now, I'd already had several before the bucket challenge, and then round after round after that. So I have absolutely no idea how I got out of the bar and back to the ship. I'm assuming it was Dan, which it was, but we went different directions in the bar, and I hadn't seen him all night. But when I woke up, feeling like warmed over death, thankful I'd paid for 2 watches, I look over at my little desk area, and there's my engraved, cut crystal goblet in a wooden presentation box, and I don't have a clue. Jesus, I mean, I can't believe I actually drank it, but, they don't give those things away, and you can't just buy one. The only way to get a goblet is to drink the contents and walk out the door. So, I guess the the legend is born. And from there, well, it was Haiphong, Da Nang, Vietnam, Liam Shabang, Thailand. I probably shouldn't talk too much about Thailand. My wife listens to these. just, just kidding, dear. Then Singapore. Now, Singapore is special and home to one of the world's preeminent luxury five-star hotels, Raffles. Now, Raffles was built in the late 1880s when Singapore was still a British colony and was a part-time home to many of the golden era A-listers, movers and shakers of the world. All people like Bogey and Bacall were known to stay for months at a time. Ernest Hemingway kept a full-time suite, pretty much lived there for most of his life until he died in 1961. And in 1915, women weren't permitted to drink alcohol in the bar at Raffles. So a bartender named Yang Tong Boon started with a mix of fruit juices and clear alcohol to give the appearance of a fruit punch, but with a kick, thereby making it an acceptable drink for the members' wives in the bar. Thus, the Singapore slang was born in 1915 at the Long Bar at Raffles. Now, I've been to Singapore 6 times, and every time I made a point to go have a Reuben sandwich and a Singapore sling at the Long Bar where Ernest Hemingway sat. Not a lot of people can claim that. Then, Jakarta, Indonesia, and another life lesson. Now, Jakarta was an eye-opener. Man, I just wanted to get off the ship and walk on something that wasn't moving for an hour. Which is, usually what a sailor does. He just wants to go have something to eat and, maybe a beer and walk a little bit. But this was just third world abject starvation level poverty. Man, I'd never seen anything like this, not even on National Geo. But I end up in this little place called the Radio Bar. And if there's a, if there's any sailors out there that hear this, have been to Jakarta and the Radio Bar, brother, I want to hear about it. Now, the Radio Bar was a dirt floor tin shack. I don't know, maybe 20 by 20. The bar itself was just a couple of 10-foot planks on cinder block, and there's a half a dozen buckets, scattered around for, people to sit on. Now, when I walk in, there's 3 guys, probably port workers in the corner on buckets, eating a little bowl of noodles. And they stop what they're doing and just stare. You know, sound familiar? Then a tiny skin and bones woman in rags holding a starving infant slowly shuffles in, squats down right next to me, and timidly holds out her hand, touching my leg, begging for a coin. Um, did I mention I'd never been out of Oregon before? But now I catch the 3 guys in the corner had set their noodle bowls down and are looking me up and down like a bag of meat. So I'm thinking, yeah, okay, this is familiar. I've been here before. They're gauging me, waiting to see how I handle this, to see if I'm a soft target or not. Well, my Spider-Man Spidey sense is ringing off the fucking chart. Now, I grew up literally in the back room of my dad's bar, and now 10 bar and bounce for him when I'm home off the ship. So I've been around the block. I'm a big scrappy guy, but I know a bad spot when I'm in one, and I'm in one right now. I am all by myself. Nobody knows where I am, drinking questionable alcohol deep in a port slum in Jakarta. I should not be here, but I'm not your average pigeon, and I'm not letting these guys intimidate and run me out. This ain't gonna happen. Not in this fucking lifetime. I'm gonna stand right here, have one drink to say I did and make my point, and then get my lily white ass back to the ship where it should have stayed to begin with. Holy shit. So I dropped some coins in the woman's hand and turned to make a little solid eye contact with all three of them. Give them that little head nod of acknowledgement to let them know I see them and I know what time it is. And I'm also trying to keep an eye on the woman who's still squatting a foot from my legs. All this 70-pound woman has to do is wrap up my knees for 2 seconds. These guys are on me and it's over. They just cover up the blood with more dirt, take my watch and money, and I'm never heard from again. Shit. They'll feed my body to the pigs out back, and in 2 weeks, some other sailor will be enjoying me with mustard on a hot dog bun. And if you don't think this kind of shit happens every day in port slums around the world, then I congratulate you on the sheltered life you've lived. But, brother, I am in trouble. So now, I know the woman is the key. The guys behind me aren't going to make a move until she grabs my legs. It's too risky. Hell, every sailor carries a knife, including me, and I'm twice their size. So, real quick, I bend over to pull up my sock and put a pace between me and the woman. So now she can't just reach and grab. She's got to move towards me. And if she twitches, I'm going to smash my knee into the center of her face as I sprint for the door. So now I'm just resting. Oh, yeah, it's like it's like I was there again. So at this point, I'm just resting now. I've got my right elbow on the plank with my back to the wall so I can keep an eye on them and her. Yeah, I'm ready. Now this changes the whole dynamic. And as confirmation, I see her look at the guys, look at me, look at the guys, look at me. Now they know that I know, and the mood changes. I am not a soft target. So, right on cue, they pick up their bowls, resume eating and talking, probably about me. And that was the sign for the woman to shuffle back outside the door where she was before, a few coins richer, that she'll split with the guys. And I stayed there another 10 minutes, enjoying a leisurely 100-degree beer with adrenaline sweat rolling down my back. But feeling pretty damn proud of myself, to be honest, for spotting this one. That little starving panhandler was a damn good distraction and almost worked. But hell, son, I'm Spider-Man. Now, this was obviously a team that had done this before. I mean, who knows how many times. Now, I'm sure they'd probably just knock you in the head and take your money, but you could be disappeared just as easily, and it does happen every day. But this actually was good for me. I mean, it put me on point immediately from that day on about where I was and where I shouldn't be, at least by myself anyway. But from here, it was on to Manila, Philippines, back to Singapore and Raffles, and back to Hong Kong. And no, I passed on the bottom sub club this time, but I sure went back twice more on other cruises. Then from Hong Kong to Guam, Hawaii, Los Angeles, then back to Seattle. And that was my very first cruise on the Jungle Run. Now, over the next 4 to 5 years, I sailed with APL a few more times, then with Chevron Oil on the Lion of California. Jeez, she was an archaic rust bucket, an old coastal oil tanker that just ran up and down the west coast, stopping for 8 hours a time at all the little ports, delivering bulk oil products. That was kind of fun. I mean, you're in port every night, and everybody speaks English, which is kind of nice. And then Matson Line, I made several trips with Manson. They were basically a dedicated run between LA and Hawaii and hauled raw bulk molasses from sugarcane, along with some containers and maybe 30 cars at a time. And now, folks, if you made it this far through all of the background material, I salute you. And this is where we come to the signature fuck up of my career, the South Korea story. Now, by this time, I'd been sailing all 5 years or so. Been around the block a couple times with a couple new scars to prove it. And I'm sailing out of the Portland Union Hall now. The little town where I lived and where Dad's bar was just down I-5 about 30 miles near Wilsonville, which made it real convenient just to run up to the Union Hall and check the board for any calls coming up. Now, a call is when on a certain day, certain time, a job is formally opened for whoever wants it. That's the moment everyone's card hits the counter and the agent sorts them out to see who's got the senior card. And that would be at 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. on call days. Now in Seattle, there would be multiple open slots just about every day. So they held calls Monday through Friday, 10 and 2. But there's also 100 guys hanging out in the hall every day. And they've usually got A and B cards, which puts them a little farther up the food chain than I was. So they could all have that shit. Now, we didn't have near the traffic in Portland. So our calls were on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 and 2. But this now creates the opportunity to pick up some scraps or jobs that don't make it to the call board. Let's say, on a Tuesday morning, 10:30, phone rings, agent answers. This is Captain Butters on the Union Oil chemical tanker Cornucopia. I had a seaman slip on deck and broke his wrist, and I got to put him off here in Portland. I'm sailing again in 12 hours, and I need an AB replacement as quick as you can. Send him down to the Union Oil Terminal, Pier 3. Thanks a lot. Click. Hell, if I'm the only swinging dick hanging out in the hall that morning, it's mine. Period. And that is precisely word for word how I took that man's job and stayed there for the rest of my sailing career, about another 5 years. Now, this is how that worked. Union Oil, of course, has its own huge fleet of oil tankers around the world, which are all fully unionized top to bottom. The Union Oil Chemicals Division was a different animal. They ran, at the time, one ship, the Cornucopia. And the primary cargo is liquid anhydrous ammonia. Seriously nasty shit. Now, they refrigerate the gas down until it condenses into a liquid, and that's how it's transported. But the party trick for liquid anhydrous is that it boils at minus 70 degrees below zero. So if you get the slightest glitch in the Coliseum-sized reefer unit and get a small spike up to maybe, minus 67 degrees below zero, you could start to get a tiny bubbly action on the surface of your cargo, which has the potential to become a runaway reaction and turn your ship into a mushroom cloud of lethal flesh-eating fog. And our two secondary cargoes were caustic soda and sulfuric acid. Man, we were the floating trifecta of death. And these were in two huge side-by-side tanks right up in the bow. The first place to take any damage in a collision. Man, I never understood that design choice. But if these two so much as shook hands together, I mean, once again, you're a mushroom cloud of lethal flesh-eating fog. So the cornucopia was allowed to operate under a slightly different set of rules. And Union Chem wanted trained, full-time company employees who transferred on and off the ship as a group. They've worked together before. There's no getting anyone up to speed, handling lethal cargoes every 60 days. It's all good. So as an olive branch to the Teamsters, Union Oil Chem agreed to a 51-49 split, which I believe a lot of their ships are now, actually. In this case, 51% of the ship were Union Oil full-time employees and 49% union. But Union Cam also reserved the right to then call back any Union member they chose without going through the hall. So I'd get a registered letter every, say, 10 days in advance stating, Mr. Bell, you'll be rejoining the cornucopia on March 4th at 10 or 8 a.m. at the Union Oil Terminal, Pier 3 in Portland. Or rejoining in Kenai, Alaska, which was actually our home port where we loaded up. In which case, a plane ticket would be waiting for you at the counter at the Portland airport, and you'd fly to Anchorage, and then a bush plane south to Kenai. Now, Union Oil Chemical is based in Kenai, which is on the Cook Inlet, about 60 miles south of Anchorage, between Homer and Homer and Anchorage. Now, part of the oil refining process is the extraction of contaminants from the crude, like anhydrous ammonia, which turns out to be an extremely rich, efficient, and profitable fertilizer, which is shipped all over the world. So when you're going down the road, those long white tanks out in the farm field that look like a propane tank, that's anhydrous ammonia that gets injected into the soil during the planting phase. Now, the cornucopia is basically on a dedicated run between Kenai, Alaska, and Incheon, South Korea, which is on the west side of Seoul, about 20 miles from the DMZ in North Korea. You'll usually go back and forth, 3 times on a cruise, and then rotate. So we're there for 3 days about every 3 weeks, the same group of guys like clockwork. And all the locals know us, they know who we are. There was a place about, a 30-minute cab ride from the port. It was just called Sailor Bar. The place was clean. Mama San, or the boss lady, spoke good English, went out of her way to get nice food for us, good drinks that weren't intentionally overstrong or spiked. Hell, you could even get mail forwarded here. And this had been the home away from home for the cornucopia cruise for years. I mean, we were like her little ducks. She took care of us. And this meant that the young women who frequented our bar weren't bar girls or pole dancers. They were young, educated professionals, most with degrees, who might work in a pharmacy, manage an insurance office, be a nurse, and probably spoke pretty decent English. And around the world, then and now, Americans are known to be generous and a lot more respectful to women than men from any other planet. So these ladies were there with the purpose to find that knight in shining armor who they'll marry and go live in America. Go live the dream with, Ken, Ken and Barbie, or Bonnie and Clyde. And for them, this was a valid way out that worked once in a while. So you can't blame them for trying. And they paid Mama-san a monthly fee for the privilege to hunt there, and another lump sum if she lands you. So if you meet a nice young lady that you get along with, Mama-san sees this, and the word goes out that you have just become that girl's property. So even if you come in and your girl isn't there yet, none of the other girls will have anything to do with you beyond a hello and a smile, giving your girl time and space to close the deal. Now, the Mama-san is going to know your name, what you do on the ship, where you live, how much you make. Hell, she probably knows your social and your mother's maiden name. And she also knows our shipping schedule to the hour on both ends. So when the ship approaches the dock in Incheon, there's usually a half a dozen taxis with a half a dozen Barbies parked on the dock, patiently waiting for their cans, thereby ensuring that you don't even have the chance to think about going to another bar or looking at another girl. I mean, she has an investment in you now, and it's business. It's serious business. Now, at this stage, you're probably going to her apartment now, where she cooks fabulous meals, does your laundry, does your shopping for the shampoo and the socks, or whatever little shit that you need. And then a romantic evening of rubbing lotion on the chemical burns all over your face and arms. Yeah, I still have little scars on my arms from getting repeatedly splashed with that shit. But this particular run was just a short stop, about 12 hours or so. Then the rest of the cargo was going to Japan somewhere. Now, Brian My buddy down in the engineering department, he was also from the Oregon coast up in Astoria. And we were about the same age, rotated together, and had been on the ship for about a year or so at this point. And we weren't at the go to the apartment phase quite yet, but my little bank teller and Brian's Toyota dealership assistant manager were usually there to pick us up, and we went back to Mama San's. I mean, it was nice. It was comfortable, good food, good drinks, a dozen nice rooms upstairs, and the little DJ in the corner spinning some mad vinyl. And for some of you who are victims of our current drive-by public school system, spinning vinyl is an ancient colloquial term for the retrieval of sound from a storage device from your ancestors used called a record. I'm sorry, I have too much fun with this sometimes. But anyway, maybe it was the short stay, I don't know, but this time there weren't any taxis on the dock. Hell, I'd already paid for a watch, so Brian and I look at each other. Shit, we're only here for a few hours. Fuck Mama San. Let's go to a different bar for a change. And that, dear listener, was strike number one. A swing and a miss. Now, they've got us way out on our own pier for hazardous and dangerous cargoes with our own higher level security entrance. Now, we're just 20 miles from the demilitarized zone with North Korea and 500,000 missiles and artillery pieces that are aimed straight at Seoul and Incheon. Now, North and South have been at a perpetual state of war with each other since about 1949. And today they're still at war. There's never been a peace. It's only a ceasefire enforced and maintained by us. So security along the DMZ is taken real serious. And there were particularly high tensions at the time. So anything within about 20 miles of the port was under a strict military curfew after 11 p.m. Anything on the road after 11 would be stopped and checked at gunpoint and may or may not be allowed to continue from there. But Brian and I walk up to the shack. Security all over the port is armed military. I mean, they're not just rent-a-cops. So even though the MPs all know us, super friendly guys, I mean, always wanting to talk about America, you're still going to show ID and get logged in and out every time. I mean, of course, right? Gee, I wonder where Mama San gets her info. Hell, Mama San is like a little John Gotti. She's the boss of a family and is a straight up gangster. And not immediately grasping this obvious fact of life was Steve, right? Number two. Hell, the MPs are probably making 50 cents a week. So when we're in port, they'll make another 50 cents reporting to Mama San when anybody heads to town. Then she'll call your girl at home or work, and she'll be there when you get there or very shortly after. So the MP calls us a cab. It takes about 30 minutes to get out here. And, Mama San no taxi? You bad boys? Mama San mad. What you do? What you do? Laugh, laugh, laugh. Just typical Teamster banner that takes place on any pier in any seaport anywhere in the world. Nah, nah, we're just here for a short time, then go Japan. We just want to go to town, drink beer, see something different. Which actually was the plan. The ship was set to sail on the tide at 12:30 a.m. 003 or 0030 in about 14 hours as the cab was pulling up. I know good area for you. Many nice bar. You walk. Maybe see pretty girl. I know. I know. I tell taxi. He take you. Nice area. You like. Yeah, great. That's a good idea. Thanks. Shit. That cab was barely in gear before Mama San was getting a full military report. Name, rank, and serial number of who was on the loose and what area they had been sent to. Man, what could possibly go wrong? So, cab drops us off, and we're not in one of the regular touristy areas. It's a little more residential-ish. Not real crowded. And it's a strip about 4 blocks long with the traditional narrow 3-story buildings on both sides, bars and restaurants on the street level with little various businesses on the second. Then the girls' rooms from the bar are always on the top floor, the third floor. So yeah, hell, this was just what the doctor ordered. And now you've got to work through the normal routine where you don't even make it to the door, and a pretty young girl who's got a hold of each arm dragging you into their bar. Oh, welcome, welcome. Come sit with me. Where you from? You're very handsome. Buy me drink. Buy me drink. At the same time, one hand is rubbing your back and the other is rubbing your thigh, which is all great fun on your first couple trips to the rodeo. But after that, to be honest, it just gets fucking annoying when all you want is just a beer. So Brian and I just turn around and walk out of about 5 of these, which is what you do. You just smile and keep moving. Then we find one that kind of clicks. At least they give a guy a chance to sit somewhere before two buy me drink girls make themselves very much at home at your table. And buy me drink is usually a $5 shot of pineapple juice, which the girl then splits with the bar, while at the same time the bartender is pouring your drink way too strong and or adding just a little something that won't flat knock you out, but will loosen your wallet. You'll lose all track of time, and then you'll wake up 3 hours later upstairs with your pants off, so you'll think you actually accomplished something, dead stone broke with a splitting headache. Shit. They'll even find that $100 bill you keep stashed in your sock for emergencies just like this. Now, of course, nothing like that ever happened to me. Hell, I'm Spider-Man, remember? I'm way too savvy a pirate for that shit to work on me. I just heard about it from some of the guys. Uh, but this time, Buy Me Drink was a couple beers for the girls, too. Hell, if it's a slow evening, the girls get bored like anybody else. I mean, they're all in their late teens, early 20s in a dangerous, high stress job. I mean, come on, let's be honest here. They're not at Hooters. This is the port area in South Korea. Now, they'll make about triple what the average South Korean makes, but damn. So, if they get a couple nice younger guys with a little personality, hell, they'll take the opportunity to shift gears and just blow off some steam themselves and turn it into their own party night. And if the stars are aligned just right, they'll take you along for the ride. And that's the vibe we had going tonight. Let me tell you, you get a half a dozen little bar girls letting off steam on a party night and not constantly just trying to put the squeeze on you, pun intended. Man, that can be one of those legendary evenings. Excuse me. Now, we've been at this for a little while now. Brian says, "Man, this is too good. We need a shot of tequila." And that was the right number 3. We were out at the plate. We just didn't know it quite yet. Now, I always drink beer off the ship because it's pretty hard to tamper with your bottle of beer. And as long as you get a new bar, or as long as you get a new beer every time you go piss and don't touch the one you turned your back on for 2 minutes, you'll be fine. And this was different. These girls really liked us. They were our friends, right? Yeah, of course they were. And I remember checking my watch, and it's about 9 o'clock. Let's see, curfew's at 11. Ship sails 12:30. Yeah, we got time for a shot and one more beer, and then we got to beat feet and call a cab. Bartender carries over a tray of shots. The girls all snatch theirs, leaving 2 out on the edge of the tray just for us. So we have a shot, order one more beer. At this point, we've had maybe 4 San Miguels and a shot, which for 2 big Westerners isn't a lot. But now the lights seem to be just a little more colorful. And now those scratchy old records are sounding pretty damn good. You know, Brian, this place is all right. This is a lot of fun. These are nice girls. They just like to party a little. We need to start coming back here sometimes. Next thing I remember is walking into the can, and then some stairs, and wait a second, there's no steps in the bathroom. And this little girl is really cute on my arm. Boy, she sure is a cute little thing. She's just as cute as a butt. What was her name? Then I'm lying on a bed, and through the fog, I kind of wake up to this yelling going on downstairs. That's just echoing up the stairwell. More yelling, chairs sliding, glass breaks. What the hell's going on down there? Then Brian's in the doorway pulling his pants on. I notice mine are unbuckled, but I'm still wearing them. The girls, they're downstairs. Well, yeah, we're in the bar. I think, wake up, you stupid fuck. Our girls, Mama San, they're downstairs right now. Oh, my sweet Jesus, what time is it? It's 10:30. Oh, fuck. If we had a cab waiting for us right now, it's a 30-minute ride to the port. We have to get out of here. And right now, there's an Asian turf war going on downstairs between bar girls from two different bars fighting over who gets to cut our nuts off. I'm not going down there for nothing. Well, there's a window in my room. Now, all of these buildings have a little fenced yard area in the back that faces onto a little dirt alley. And there'll be a little tin roofed lean to covering a pile of month-old garbage bags and usually a dog. So I crawl out hanging on the windowsill and drop 10 feet onto that tin shed. Then bang, rattle, rattle, roll down the roof, crash, rattle into the garbage bags. Then the dog's on me. Bark, bark, intruder alert, bark, bark. Then bang, rattle, rattle, here comes Brian. Crash, garbage bags, dog, bark, bark, Brian's getting bit. Now the dogs on each side of us and across the alley have joined in. Bark, bark, intruder alert, bark, bark. I have woken into a bloody fucking nightmare. I still have some kind of drug in my system, alcohol, now a massive adrenaline dump. I gotta get away from these dogs, these goddamn dogs. So I'm over the fence into the alley and I just sprint in what I hope is the right direction. If I knew the direction, what direction the port was, I'd at least run that way. And this is where Brian and I get crossed up. I go in one direction, he went the other. So now we're separated. We're both on our own now. With, for all I know, two packs of knife-wielding hookers hunting us down. And you know what? Right about now, a little woke safe space might actually make some sense. Otherwise, shut the fuck up. I got no sympathy for you. Ugh, I'm sorry. But now I'm just looking for a road. I mean, there's no cabs in the alley. A few seconds and I find pavement. I have to stop for a few seconds just to try to catch my breath. God damn. There's a little light out here under the lamp post where I can get a look at myself, and I'm just covered in filth, bleeding, scrapes and cuts, sliding down a rusty tin roof, rolling through the garbage bags, and my leg is killing me where that fucking dog bit my calf and it's bleeding. Oh shit. I checked my pockets. Hell, I've still got my wallet. How do I still have my wallet? Our girls must have stormed in right as they dropped us on the bed. It's the only answer. But I gotta keep moving. I mean, hell, what time is it? Damn, it's not quite 20 till 11. So everything from Brian pulling his pants up to me gasping under the lamppost has been less than 5 minutes. How time flies when your heart rate's at 180 a minute. So I pick a direction and just take off jogging. I'm praying for a cab, watching for a bicycle I can snatch. If I can just figure out what direction the damn port is. All right, there's an intersection with a cab at the curb. It's quarter till now. This cabbie's probably just tallying up his receipts, thinking he's thinking he's done for the night. Well, tag, you're it, brother. And I take this poor guy by surprise as I yank the door open and dive in the back. He freaks out, leaning way over, looking back at this giant bloody foreigner, screaming at him, "Don't no cab, curfew, me time, no cab, you go, you go. At the same time, I'm yelling at him, peeling money off into his lap. Please, must go port, ship sails soon, please, curfew. Samil Budu, ne, must go, Samil Budu. And Didi Mao, motherfucker, which is Vietnamese for move your ass. And, well, motherfucker is pretty universal. So now he's got a week's wages in his lap with the promise of a lot more if he'd just fucking Didi Mao, goddammit. Okay. We start flying through the town. Now, he's genuinely trying to get me to the checkpoint in time, but not going to make it. So now, excuse me, we're on the port road that winds its way out to the entrance, and about 3 miles out is a permanent checkpoint guard station, and everything on our side of the port checks in through there. Now I know we're getting closer. Cabby starts to slow down, and I'm not thinking straight. I'm going, no, the ship's so soon, must go. What you do? He's yelling back over his shoulder. Oh, roadblock, we stop. Which is when I should have just said, yeah, you're right. Damn nice try, but we stop. And I throw myself on the mercy of the guys who've been logging me through the guard shack for the last year. I mean, yeah, I broke curfew and I might lose my job, but I'd catch another ship. Wouldn't be the end of the world. But I've still got roofies, alcohol, and adrenaline pumping through me. Hell, I'm bleeding. I'm not thinking, but the only thing I know is that that ship is American soil, and that's all that matters. At this point, my brain is completely disengaged from reality, and I'm looming over this guy. Please, ship sail soon, must go now, go around. Slap, 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 more money. Cabby's totally overwhelmed, screaming to himself, okay, mumble, mumble. Probably something like, all right, you asked for it, motherfucker. As he pulls off to the right, a little dirt road going up into the hills. We're bouncing along, dust rolling in through the windows. After a few minutes, we got a pair of headlights coming up behind us through the dust. And we drop down towards the road. And there's two more Jeeps just sitting there patiently waiting for us. And yeah, I guess about once a year or year and a half, some dummy pulls some crap like this and they make an example out of him so that it's a couple more years before the next dummy like me comes along. So I'm military. I mean, I went through boot camp when drill instructors could and would still lay hands on you. They'd take a fuck up out behind the parade grounds and 3 DIs would turn you black and blue from chin to ankle. So I had a rough idea of probably what was coming. I took my shot and lost. Now I had a bill to pay. So I'm cuffed, thrown face down in the back of a Jeep, some asshole sitting on my back. At the guard's office, I'm cuffed to a metal chair. 4 or 5 MPs milling around doing some paperwork, just ignoring me. And there's a big clock on the wall facing me. And it's 11:45 now. And I'm just sitting there watching that minute hand go around and around. 10 after 12. Hell, it's the next day now. I was on one ship when a guy was left behind. His name was Jim. And he went ashore for some shampoo and a beer and never came back. When it came time to sail, the old man waited exactly 15 minutes, then cast off all lines, and I never saw him again. They called the union agent to come pick up the stuff the next time we're in Portland. But at least he was marooned in Sacramento. Not quite the same thing. So now the gas tank is empty. Roofies and adrenaline are pretty much gone. I ache from stem to stern, bleeding from 100 little cuts. My leg is throbbing from that fucking dog. I'm pretty much a broken man at this point and worried about Brian. Now, I'd ask the guards if they'd had him, but nothing. So now I'm sitting here just shaking my head. What the fuck happened? What the fuck did I do? This isn't like me. What the fuck did they put in that shot? About 12:20. This little rat-faced captain walks in with a couple of non-coms with him. At this point, everyone else files out the room and closes the door behind them. Oh, this just keeps getting better and better. Shit, I forgot about this part. I still got dinner to pay for. But I try asking the captain. See, my friend Brian was with me in town. These girls drugged us. My friend is still lost. Do you have him? Is he okay? This captain's just slowly pacing back and forth in front of me. Then, what? This heavy leather strap comes down across the top of my legs. What the fuck? God damn it! Hand shoved me back down in the chair. Captain just keeps pacing. I'm done. I shot my wad. I got nothing left. I'm just panting, sweating, in a real dark place right now. Now the captain bends down, puts his little rat face right next to mine. You disrespect me. You disrespect my men. You disrespect job we do. Who the fuck you think you are? This not America. This my world. Yes, your friend okay. I'm sure he very touched by your concern. Your friend stop at roadblock. Put hands up. Say, I'm sorry. I fuck up. We say, okay, we understand. You good guys. Your friend on ship now. Going home. Then they all walk out, leaving me there all alone. Clock on the wall shows 01:45. Now even the 15-minute grace period is gone. My only thoughts are, how the hell am I going to make that call on some scratchy overseas connection to tell my dad that his only child wouldn't be home for a while? Now it's 0200, 2 a.m., and I don't believe it. I hear the chief mate's voice out front. All right, where is he? They all come walking back in. Jesus fucking Christ on toast, Schaefer. You look like shit. What the fuck did you do? Your boy have adventure tonight. Maybe too much adventure. But we have nice talk. He understand now. I look forward to not seeing him for a while. On the ride back to the ship, chief mate's filling me in. Jesus Christ, Schaefer, what the hell am I going to do with you? You got no idea the shit show you stirred up. The old man was spitting nails when I talked to the mama-san. Yeah, don't look at me like that. You don't think I go ashore once in a while, too? Yeah, she called me. Said they gave you and Brian a hot shot. We're on the run. Lucky for you, the chief engineer found a filter in one of the widget pumps that needed an emergency replacement, and that takes about 2 hours. So no, you're not fired yet, but you are going to pay a price. The old man's going to discuss that with you tomorrow. For now, haul your ass up the gangway, get yourself a shower and some clean clothes. We're sailing in 30 minutes, and then you're on watch. Now, I was on the, excuse me, I was on the 4-day watch, and it's about 0600, clear horizon, looking for the green flash, just thankful to be alive. Captain walks out on the bridge with his big mug of coffee. I give him the steady on 107, Captain. Very well. About 10 minutes later, out here, Schaefer. We go out on the wing of the bridge. Captain's just standing there looking at the horizon. You caused quite a shit show last night. You realize that? Yes, sir, I do. At least Brian had the sense not to spark an international incident with the military foreign power who's currently at war with its fucking neighbor. I had to kiss some serious ass to get you out last night. Do you realize that? You're lucky it was two of you and I couldn't afford to sail that short-handed. Look, Bill, I know you're a good man and a good man to have on my ship. God damn it, that's why I keep bringing you back. But if you were by yourself after pulling something like this, I don't care if you're Popeye the motherfucking sailor, man. I'll leave your ass and not give it a second thought. Are we clear? Yes, sir. Crystal. All right. Chief's got my instructions on you. See him after your watch. Brian was given 2 weeks' salary deduction, plus restricted to the ship for the remainder of this cruise and all of the next. And since I had sparked an international incident with a military foreign power who was already at DEFCON 3, I lost 30 days' salary plus ship restriction, this cruise and the next. Turns out, turns out Mama San and the girls were just trying to find us before we stepped into some shit. They almost made it. They did get Brian's wallet back. No money in it, but he got his ID back. The point is they weren't hunting us down after blood. They actually had our backs, and well, we're protecting their investments. Then about 6 months later, at my very first opportunity, I walked straight back into Mama San's, head bowed, hat in hand, so to speak. And before I could even say, I'm sorry and thank you, she walked up, grabbed me by the hands. Mr. Bill, welcome back. We miss you.